This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss productivity as a personal matter. We recognize that each individual may have his or her own formula for getting things done.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Tengo sueño.
Estoy cansada también. Today, we are excited.
I'm excited.
Okay, yeah. Today, Carlie's excited to talk about productivity. I feel like productivity is one of those things that's like a never-ending cycle of trying to find yourself, like spirituality or something. That's how it works for me, but we'll get into that first. We have a question from the couch that you guys answered pretty enthusiastically. And the question was, if you could pay someone to take anything off your plate, what would it be?
Keep up with and manage payment of my bills times 4. So 4 folks said
That's
that.
a rough one. Yeah, I just be ignoring all that. The next one said all finances, taxes, related paperwork. And another person was like, I'll hire an accountant. So apparently people do not like to look at numbers. So understood.
Family/house administrative tasks.
Oh, you want a Jeffrey. Like in the New Bel-Air, how he's like the house manager. I was like, what's he even doing? Just keeping things together. 7 people said cleaning / like cleaning their apartment, which yes, because you need somebody to get up in them baseboards for real. Because I know I'd be superficial with the wipes.
And then we had a bunch of people. We had 6 people say laundry, but then 2 were specific. 2 were specific. They said folding, organizing, end to end, putting away included. 2
That's
people.
the part. Because I definitely keep.
Yeah, I can wash clothes.
I keep a load on my bed. Damn, that one.
All right.
I'm glad nobody that's in our friend group.
This gonna be the one time they listen.
In the pause jar. Yeah, we have a pause jar where every time we get paused, playfully, like around sexual innuendos, not even anything else, but just sexual in general, we get a tally. And we've only been at this for like 3 weeks, and I'm definitely at like 29 in there.
That
so
would have been 30.
For everyone, we got to put $1 in there. And at the end of the year, we said we gonna spend that to go to dinner or something. So shout out to me funding our dinner.
Exactly.
Another person said driving their kids to and from practice. Yeah, I could feel that because I helped a family with that one time, but it was great for having a free house. But yeah, that back and forth, anytime you have to drop kids off and stuff, like that's a lot of your time. That's a lot of your time.
Another person said chef and driver.
3 people said shopping / grocery shopping. I do pay somebody to do that.
3 people said meal prep / cooking.
I get that. One was like, you tell me, babe, but
Someone else said editing content or editing their YouTube channel.
yeah, facts. These next few, all of these, like you got to pay somebody for. Marketing and promotion execution. Yep.
And then we had a few dad jokes. So someone said all the carbs and sugars, LOL. And then someone else said gluten.
Right. You ain't paying somebody to take that off your plate, though. You're going to stop eating real quick, eating that stuff. And then lastly, somebody said, that's my problem. I feel like I have to be the one to handle everything or it won't be right. Usually you feel like that until you do it. Although there's some hiccups because I didn't feel like that. I just didn't want to invest in it. Once you invest in it and realize how much just paying somebody to take like one thing you don't like doing off your plate is, then you'd be like, whoa. And yeah, like I'm like, and then once you have people who are good with it, it's like I gladly will give whatever money I can to certain folks who do a great job with what they do. So try it. You got to start small.
So productivity, whenever we ask y'all for episode topics, I feel like it comes up every single time. People are like productivity, morning routine. How do I get more productive? How do I get in flow?
People think we're really productive.
And so, yeah, that's also part of it, which we'll talk about. But like, what's our obsession with productivity? Ours in society. Society, not us personally.
I think the obsession with productivity is the fact that it is part of a measurement of our worth in our society, how much you get done and success. So because success and how much you can get done is connected to our worth in our society, and even if you're like, my job's not my worth, like, you need money, you want to feel like you are doing something. You don't want to feel like a bum. So I think we get obsessed with it because it is a kind of status bar, on each person of like, oh, how productive are you? and because it's connected to what we bring in and our ability to participate in capitalism.
Yeah, I think I love what you said. It's because it's about our worth. I think that people see productivity as their avenue towards success, because that's the only thing that's been, like, I was going to say shoved down our throats, but in society is about, like, oh, if you're more productive, you got to get up at 5 a.m. whenever you want to be as successful as you want to breathe, then you'll be, successful, whatever, all those things. And so they think that the productivity is like a word for, like, a solve all that will help them get to the next level.
And also success, because as you were saying that, I realized, like, for some people, success, the productivity is the success. So for folks like me, who if I grew up feeling like, I have to be doing something, and or you have to be moving in a certain direction or whatever, like you grow up getting points or maybe getting affection or whatever, based off of, like, oh, you're so awesome and get things done and all that. And so sometimes we make the productivity itself, like, this is what I'm doing it for.
Yeah. And if you haven't ever, like, slowed down, then you might not understand your reason. I think that is it for a lot of people, though. But like I said, a lot of other people, I think there are other things going on in their lives, but they think that if they were more productive, then they will be able to fix everything else.
Either way, it's tied to that's your self-worth. So, yeah, I guess that's...
Today we're here to talk about self-worth methods.
Yeah. I guess so at the end of the day. There's a lot of productivity methods, though, like from old school. Put a pen to paper, make your to-do list. And then, of course, a zillion apps and ways to do, like, a to-do list.
From the Pomodoro method, which we've talked about, which is, like, you set a timer for 20 minutes, you work, for 5 minutes, you take a break, and then keep going like that. I feel like that kind of actually helps me when I'm working on things, but that's another big one.
Having, like, your schedule, your notebook, your calendar, right, where you're planning out how you spend your time. That is a method of productivity.
I know people who live and die by their calendars. And so, like,
I put everything in there.
Yeah. And so if you don't have that, then you won't do anything.
And also, though, keeping a calendar, if you feel like you're not that productive, trying to fill up your calendar is actually a really good way to be more productive. But maybe we can get into that. Because, like, if you look at your calendar and you don't got nothing on it, then that really does mean, like, I could be doing a lot more stuff. Another is just setting your alarms, whether that is setting alarms to make sure you have time to be somewhere, to get somewhere, whether it's alarms for, okay, now let me start a thing, like, you just something that triggers you to move and to make a movement. And
then the ultra infamous to-do list. Or that never gets done list, whatever. But I feel like a lot of people make checklists or to-do lists, and like checking things off, like, gives you the dopamine high.
Yeah. And then there's so many tools now, Slack, Monday. I'm trying to think of, what's that one that starts with an H, where you can harvest. There's so many tools, which are good for teams or individuals to basically say, hey, these are the things I need to get done. Here's the time with which I'll get it done. This is how I can track if I'm getting things done. So there's just so many ways to do this, so many tools. And so because there's so many of these methods, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, why is there so many ways to be productive?
I feel like because everybody's different, like the way we learn, the way we show up, the things that get us in flow. Like, for example, some people like working out at the ass crack of dawn. Some people like working out at night. I'm more of an afternoon lunch person. And so I think that there's all these different tools for the different ways people learn, think, and also where they're at in their lives. I think, for example, productivity tools that worked in your early 20s probably don't work later on in your 20s, or when you start to get more money, or when the task that you're doing changes. Also, I would say, like, whenever people have kids or, like, get married, I feel like that changes too, because then your time is a little bit different. And so I think that there are so many methods because there's not one surefire way that works for everybody.
There's so many ways to be productive because it really is about what works for you, what keeps you able to do the important things. Does that define productivity? Maybe not really, though, because I'm kind of thinking of some other caveats to that. But because we all learn differently and because we're all motivated differently, I think it's really important for us to have this conversation, because you can't pick up every book, and there's so many of them, right? From 4 Hour Work Week to all these books that help you with entrepreneurship, et cetera, et cetera. so many good tips, so many podcasts on the tips, right, that we just talked about. And yet you still have to figure out what works for you. And there's so many different ways that can work. So I was saying earlier, like before we really started the episode, that I feel like probably not my whole life, maybe in the last 15 at least years, I've been like focused on trying to figure out how to get this overall big thing done that I know I need to get done, and what all the little pieces, keeping it organized, and how to feel like my best self and be healthy and all these different things, right? I think that it has been an ongoing like change, tweak, try this, try that. Like I feel like I've tried just about everything to get to a space where I think I could kind of say like, I know the formula right now that kind of works for me with productivity, and yet that could potentially change. So I would encourage you to still take in all the information and to try different things. Do you feel like you know what your formula is for productivity? Like you need this, this, and this to help you be productive, or like how you need the information, or how you need to organize yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I'm not. I feel like I'm really good, but I'm not quite there yet where I'll be like, oh yeah, this is exactly it. Cause I feel like it changes a lot for me, but I know for certain that like the better I take care of myself, the more I sleep, all those stuff, like get my body and brain, if I'm working out consistently and eating well and all that, like that helps me be more productive. And then the other big thing is using the Pomodoro method, or just setting aside blocks of time to work towards a thing. So not having a deliverable like, oh, I have 20 minutes to do this. It's, hey, I have 20 minutes to work on said thing. Because if not, I feel like my brain is like, oh, I need to do this and this and this and this and this. And it's kind of all over the place. And so by putting myself in a space where I can focus on one thing and just go hard, I'm like, I'm only here for 20 minutes. Let me go hard. Oftentimes I get a lot more stuff done than whenever I'm not working like that.
I think that's huge, and that's part of mine too. Like basically, well, let me not diminish it all to one thing, but a big part of what you said was focusing on the process and measuring consistency of process as opposed to the result or the end goal thing of what you want to do. That's a huge, huge game changer, because when I finally kind of switched from that, I also realized like, oh, I can feel good about what I'm doing every day because I've touched a thing. So that part I definitely take in as well. A big part of my formula is needing to write, like physically, because I can have Slack, I can have my trackers, I can have all these things, and I still, most mornings, like most of my productive days, will write down, like I'll look at all these things, my calendar, this, and this, and I will write down all the things because I need to see it on paper. And then I have to, and then organizing them in a way where it's, all right, what things do I need to do to pass off to somebody else to do things? So like, like I know he got to look at this, or he got to do something. He needs to edit this content, so I need to upload it, right? Or something like that. So it's like, how can I prioritize? And then looking at it and be like, all right, how can I keep it real about what things am I really going to touch? Or I'll go down the list knowing I'm not about to do all of these, but like, this is the order I kind of need to do them. And then being able to cross out. Maybe that's actually the most important reason for the writing, because I like to cross things out. And yes, I can still go on my tracker and I have to be like, okay, completed or whatever. But it's something about with my hands, writing and crossing things out that really helps with my productivity. And then the doing of things, what Carlie said for sure, is of thinking about how much time I'm going to spend and working towards. And so to be able to check off that I work towards is good enough. When I'm crossing things off, it's not that it's done. It's like, oh, I did that, a little bit of that today, or I touched that today.
Yeah, I think it's revolutionary. At least it was for me to learn just to focus on the process, because you're going to get more of that done anyways. And like you feeling like, oh, I only have an hour to finish this entire deck. It might actually keep you from working on it at all, instead of being like, all right, 30 minutes for the deck, 10-minute break, 20 minutes. I'm going to go back into it and just see how much I can get done. But there is a bunch of scientific evidence behind writing and the importance of that. And so if that's huge for you, make sure you're doing that. But I will also say Warren Buffett, we talked about priorities one time, and he was like, make a whole list of the 10 most important things right now, your 10 priorities, and then cross off like the bottom 8, and only the top 2 are really your priorities. And so for a while I've been trying different things to be more productive. And one of them, my homegirl Ashley, Coach Ash, she was on the podcast a long time ago, but I would send her at the beginning of the week my most important tasks. Like this week, these are the things that I'm working on. And I realized like, oh, sitting down and actually like seeing everything and like figuring out what was most important right now was super helpful, which also goes into the definition of productivity is a measure of economic performance that compares the amount of goods and services produced output with the amount of inputs used to produce those goods and services.
So that makes sense to say you're productive if your output is more than your input, essentially. So if you're productive, you are getting the most out of your day, getting the most out of the work that you're putting in, which does mean that we have to prioritize the things. So there's always a million things to get done, but how do we prioritize what needs to be done?
Yeah, like the things that are most important, because it's oftentimes a lot easier to get distracted. Like, oh, let me clean my kitchen real quick. Let me do this and do this. And at the end of the day, you really haven't done any of the work that will move you forward. Yes. And so I remember Ashley hit me back because I was sending her my list and I was all excited, checking stuff off, sending them to her. And then she was like, hey, see, you need to take working out off of your list. She's like, because you work out all the time. Like that is not a thing that is moving you forward. You have set that habit, take that off your list, put something else up there. I was like, damn, hey, you right. It just felt
you were giving yourself a free space.
Yeah. Boop, to cross that off. And
That's
so it's like
point.
Thinking about what will move you forward, your business, your relationship, yourself. And then those are the things that you should prioritize.
I like that you brought up mental masturbation as well, because that's something that I fall victim to quite a bit, where it's like, well, I got to read first, or I got to look up something for a while, or like I really need to just give myself time first. And that really is just like you sitting around for a couple hours like, oh, I need to clean up my space before I could do anything, which is a signifier a lot of times of like, all right, once I'm clear, then I can do things. And yet that's all mental masturbation. That is, what's that word? Procrastination, essentially, from what you need to do. And so really, like you said, you found that the starting point for all of this is your health. Like if you're focused on being healthy, then you'll tend to be more productive. Makes total sense. And I think that is 100% accurate. Like what you put in yourself, how you stimulate your brain and feed your body, all of that, perfect. And I would say something for me is that I recognize that, you know what, I have a productive day when I actually just get started. Like the biggest part for me is just getting started, which is why Pomodoro, which is why if I say like, okay, let me work on this for the next hour, whatever that looks like, is helpful, because I have to trick myself into getting started. That's what I have to do. Once I start, I'm cool. And so that's why it's also helpful too. Like, yes, I might have this list of like 5-6 things, but since I put those first couple things I know I want to do at the top, a lot of times I end up being like, dang, I didn't get to 8 of these things minus the first one, but I started it, which I would not have started. And I would have been doing the little whatever stuff ahead of that. And so finding ways to trick yourself to get started is often like a major key in just setting you up for the rest of the day, honestly.
Getting started is the biggest hurdle. And there's a lot of advice saying do the hardest thing first, like the thing you're avoiding, because you have more willpower in the beginning of your day. Yeah. Because if you're like, let me tackle this deck or this budget or whatever your thing, your big like white whale is that day, tackle that first thing in the morning whenever you have more willpower. Because at 4:30, ain't nobody want to do that.
Yeah.
You're tired. You're worn down.
I did that on purpose the other day too, because I noticed like, all right, now bitch, for the 20th day in a row, I done had this one task on here that's not that crazy, and it's like I'm not doing it, and it's like I had to force myself like do this first today, and I still didn't finish it, but like I actually went through so that I could give it to somebody else to do what they need to do. And it's like it's not that crazy if you just start with it and look at it. So yeah, that's a big hurdle a lot of times.
Yeah, and I feel like this episode has been rife with a bunch of like things to think about. So, you know, your health and all of these like different options and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you being productive is about how well you know yourself and how well you can set yourself up for success.
Yeah. If you are a like go with the flow person, don't try to be rigid. I've tried that where it's like 8 o'clock, wake up, 8:05, do this, 9 o'clock, be ready for this. And as soon as one thing gets turned off, it's like, well, I guess I'm good for the day. I'm done with that one. If you're more of a go with the flow type person, then because sometimes I'll do this where it's like, man, I don't know what time I'm gonna get started, but when I get started, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, or giving yourself the space to like have open times, but you're working on different things. And another thing too is you don't want to disappoint yourself. Just like we've been talking about in a few of the episodes recently, you don't want to lose trust in yourself. You don't want to discourage yourself. So the more rigid you make your schedule, it might not be the best move for you.
Yep. So focus on the process and set aside time for that, making sure you know yourself. And then I would say, like, kind of throw spaghetti noodles up against the wall until you find what works for you in this season of your life. And then be okay whenever that doesn't work anymore. Because my formula, I feel like it changes, like I said, with different seasons of my life. But there are so many resources, free resources out here for you to try to figure out what your personal productivity formula is.
Yeah, there's countless apps that I've had on my phone and taken off. And I'm like, after a while you realize, like, dang, I ain't opened that in like 2 months. And then there's some like, they work for right now. And so there's so many different things. And sometimes just the newness of something can help you be on track. But like I said, think about if you're what type of learner you are. Like if you're visual, if you need to hear something, if you need to be hands-on. And at least starting from that, then you could think about like, oh, I need to see a list, or I need to have a partner for something, or whatever, right? So that can help you. And then I would definitely say, regardless of the type of methods, I think a big thing for sure to take away from this is to focus on the process, which means thinking about what you need to work on and just making sure you kind of touch that thing. Like you may not say, okay, I need to make 20 sales today, but you can say, I need to be on the phone for at least 20 minutes today, or I need to send at least a certain number of emails, things you can control, because if you could control it, you could feel good about doing it, or at least getting close to those numbers instead of like, oh man, at the end of the month, like I only had 1 sale.
And I think that by focusing on the process and just making like, how many calls are you going to make? How many emails are you going to send? All the things you can control, like you said, those small wins help you build momentum and feel more confident and help you just push yourself forward.
Yes. And that's what this is all about. We gotta be, we can be unproductive sometimes, but in general, I will say that reaching your goals and success does come with productivity, regardless of what it is you need to prioritize. Prioritizing yourself, making sure you have income and your family's taken care of, all of those things, right? Whatever you need to be productive about. We encourage you to take some of these steps, try some different things. And this week, let us know what method works for you. Let us know some things that work, or some apps you might know about. Because like I said, I love hearing about something new when it comes to productivity. So I'm excited to hear what your hacks might be and what's been helping you.
Yeah, let's all win together.
Let's win together. I'm sorry, that just felt like it had to be like real dramatic at the end of a speech. Let's win together. Okay, goodbye.
Bye, y'all.